Hello, so I would like to give a review first of all of this glove, the Supfen Impact Resistant Dynema version of the glove. There have been a number of kind of reviews of the leather version of this glove kind of online, but none of the Dynema version, and so I thought I'd change that because I have a few thoughts about this glove. Very positive overall, which I like to kind of put out there because there aren't any reviews of this. But overall, just to kind of skip ahead, I think this is a really, really good Sabre glove, and should be kind of adopted as the standard, especially for beginners. I think the days of the Red Dragon glove are kind of gone, especially when this is a very affordable option and offers a lot better protection, in my opinion. So I ordered this glove from Fate d'Armes in France with only £10 shipping to the UK. So overall, this glove only cost about £160, which is really quite a good price for a really quite solid Sabre glove. Sabre gloves are not a market which is well suited in HEMA. There's not a ton of gloves out there which are really very good in terms of their protection and price and stuff. I have a lot of issues with quite a few of the Sabre gloves on the market, like the Red Dragon standard glove, the Red Dragon Dreadnought style glove, most of which centers around the wrist protection that they offer. This solves that in a really good way with a really good, well-designed hourglass cut. So putting on this glove, this is the medium version of the glove, which I have. I've tried the large version as well. I have the large version here, which I will show in a moment. And fits fairly well as well for me, so I think I'm somewhere between a medium and a large. But yes, overall, a really nicely designed glove. You can see here, you have this lovely hard leather plate kind of on the outside, which is overlapping with my forearm guard and jacket underneath. I use a Red Dragon forearm guard, being one of the sort of bulkier ones on the market. And I just love that there isn't a gap between my wrist protection here and my forearm guard, so I can be hit anywhere around here and I'm not going to suffer an injury. As someone who had been using the Red Dragon glove for quite a while, you can see that there are gaps in the protection. I have my old Red Dragon here. If I will put on, Red Dragon generally being a glove which is recommended to people for beginner Sabre. Yes, I don't have any kind of pockets on the outside here where I can be hit of the wrist. But that protection kind of falls apart immediately when you go to the inside. This can kind of shift down. You have a gap here in the wrist where you can get hit. And even if this is all sort of tightly bunched up together, you have this gap here, which you can be hit as well with a Sabre. As someone who has used this Red Dragon glove for quite a while, I have been hit in this inside of the wrist area twice before with quite nasty kind of nasty Sabre hits, full power Sabre hits. Thankfully I didn't get an injury, but you are taking a risk if you, I believe, use a Red Dragon glove in this way. If you come up to a sort of high guard here, the wrist is exposed. This is how I got hit one time, and then another time just sort of guarding and someone did a inside cut to the wrist here, right through the protection, just on the bare skin, and that hurt. And I'm glad that was the fight which took me out of the tournament, as I probably wouldn't have been able to fence after that due to that injury. So the Red Dragon glove, I think, while they're cheap, are not really sufficient for Steel Sabre, especially when you have a glove like this, which is the center of the review. So protection overall for these gloves is really quite nice. As I've said, I've mentioned the leather kind of cuff surrounding it. You have a lot of hard plastic plates, or I think whatever this Dynema fabric is, it's some sort of, plastic or something like that. But you have these sort of bulges on the fingers, each individual finger offering a hard sort of plates kind of thing. You have fingertip protectors, which is really nice. I've been hit on the fingers with these gloves a number of times, but never really felt much through them. Maneuverability is very good due to the hourglass cuff design. You can do plenty of wrist moulinets with a Sabre without kind of any issue. And as I said, this is one of the bulkier forearm guards that there are out there, and it's still not really interfering at all with my maneuverability. This is much more maneuverable than you would be with any number of other sort of single hand gloves. So I'm really quite impressed with this. And yeah, in terms of protection for single hand stuff, especially in a bolt hilt Sabre, I think you would be perfectly fine with this. Even with an open hilt Sabre, I would say the protection is equivalent to a Thok glove. I have used these for single side sword. I've been hitting the fingers with them and haven't had an issue, but I haven't used a single side sword extensively enough to comment on their protection for single side sword. Although I would think it would still be fairly decent. So in terms of how it looks when you're inside a Sabre, this is a Krieger S6 Sabre, which I will do a review of soon, as there's none online, which is really quite interesting to me, considering it's a very good Sabre. But yes, your fingertips are sort of on the outside of the Sabre. This is a fairly bulky glove, and this is fairly normal for a lot of Sabres of this design. But I've been hitting the fingertips with this, felt nothing, completely fine. On the outside, you have this big plastic plate, and of course this nice hourglass cuff design. So there's really, I don't think, any risk of being substantially damaged when you hold a Sabre in the kind of correct way. And also you have these big sort of, even where the Sabre isn't guarding you, you still have these kind of plastic plates here on the outside of the sort of thumb area. You have the thumb is very well protected as well in here, fingertip cap as well. So there's really not much risk of really feeling much through this Sabre, through this glove, even if you take, fairly substantial hits to fingers and such, on the underside as well of the pinky finger area. Yes, I can feel the impacts through this, but in terms of if this is going to actually break my finger or not, no. Like, this is pretty well padded, much more than a Red Dragon glove. And I'm not afraid to take hits with a steel Sabre through this glove, which is really quite nice, which is something I can't say for the Red Dragon. So yeah, maneuverability, very good with the Sabre. I don't want to manipulate too much, as I'll break my light bulb probably, or my wall, or my clock, as you can see. But yeah, maneuverability, really quite nice. I really like the dexterous feel of the glove. You don't get as much finger feeling as you would in a Red Dragon or a lacrosse glove, but that's the sort of trade-off you get with more protection. And I think these are much more protective in a way that is very much worth it. So yeah, I think for a beginner or intermediate or even really advanced Sabre glove, this is a really good shout as a product that's out there. There aren't many that are better than this. I would, in future, I'm going to do a comparison review of this glove versus the Thok glove. These being the sort of knockoff in style, in quotations, Thoks, which I think is unfair of a representation, as they have a lot of advantages over the Thok gloves, particularly with this hourglass cuff. I think this is much better designed than the Thok hourglass kind of style cuff, and then it just offers you more maneuverability. So I really actually like these a lot more in general. But I haven't tested the Thok gloves extensively enough to give a proper side-by-side comparison, but I will do that video soon as a review. So yeah, some closing thoughts on the glove. I very much like them. They are very protective. They are still very maneuverable because they have a really nicely designed hourglass cuff, which I think all gloves in the future should have, especially for single-hand stuff, and even for two-hand stuff, because you really don't want to take, as someone who's taken a couple hits in this sort of wrist area between the forearm guard and your glove, it's really nasty, and if you get one that's just too hard, it's going to sever a tendon, and then your fencing career is going to be over. So I would say don't take risks with these things. Just get a better glove. And for only, £70 more or something, maybe 80 or 90, I can't remember off the top of my head how much a Red Dragon is these days. But for that extra cost, these are well worth it, and a really nice single-hand Sabre glove. So contact Supfen if you can get through to them on their email. I have not been that lucky, and so I ordered these from Faked at Arms instead. And the process was very simple. They arrived within 2 weeks and didn't have to like faff around with email exchanges or anything like that. So yeah, in general, very nice glove. I will just say these gloves have torn a little bit here on the palm. They have this kind of grippy texture here. This is torn, I imagine, just because the Krieger Sabre, which I've been pairing it with, is fairly rough in its handle, and that's maybe just torn that glove slightly. But if this becomes a bigger issue, I will put up a follow-up review. But I expect these to handle fairly well in terms of their use into the future. But if anything changes, I will let you guys know. So yes, thank you very much.